Year 53 before Christ. 40,000 Roman legionaries versus 10,000 Parthian horsemen in the Mesopotamian desert. 4-to-1 odds. This should be a slaughter. It is, just not the slaughter Rome expects. The Roman commander is Marcus Licinius Crassus, 60 years old, richest man in Rome, marching under a curse from the gates. He's desperate for military glory before he dies, jealous of Caesar and Pompey's victories, willing to ignore every warning. By sunset, 20,000 Romans will be corpses. Another 10,000 prisoners marched to the edge of the world. And Crassus? His severed head becomes a prop in a Greek play while the audience applauds. The main Roman army is trapped in a hollow square formation. 40,000 men packed shoulder to shoulder, while 9,000 Parthian horse archers circle them like wolves, pouring arrows from every direction. The arrows never stop. Every time the Romans think the Parthians must be running out of ammunition, the archers ride back to resupply from a train of 1,000 camels carrying nothing but spare shafts. Marcus Crassus makes a decision. He orders his son, Publius, to take 6,000 elite troops and break the encirclement. It's the best force Crassus has. 1,000 Gallic cavalry sent by Julius Caesar from the conquest of Gaul. 1,300 Roman horsemen, 500 archers, and 4,000 heavy infantry. These are professionals. These are killers. Publius charges. The Parthian horse archers immediately turn and run. It looks like a rout. The Romans are winning. Publius chases them deeper into the desert, losing visual contact with his father's square. The Parthians are fleeing so fast that dust clouds kick up behind them, a brown fog that swallows the sun. Then the Parthians stop running. The heavy cavalry, 1,000 cataphracts, riders and horses both encased in scale armor, wheel around and form a wall of iron. The light cavalry circles behind Publius, surrounding his 6,000 men. The dust isn't from retreat, it's a weapon. The sand hangs so thick in the air that the Romans can't see 10 meters. They can't see the sky. They can only hear the thunder of hooves and the whistle of incoming arrows. The Gallic cavalry tries to break through the cataphract line. These are the men who conquered Gaul for Caesar, veterans of 100 battles, famous for their courage. They slam into the Parthian heavy cavalry and discover that courage means nothing against superior technology. Their swords bounce off scale armor. Their spears shatter against iron plates. The cataphracts wield Contos lances, 4-meter-long pikes that punch through Gallic shields and lift men from their saddles. Lucius, 24, a Gallic horseman from the Aedui tribe, grabs a Parthian lance with his bare hands, trying to wrench it away from the rider. The cataphract twists. Lucius's hand is crushed, bones snapping like dry wood. He's dragged 50 meters before the lance finally rips free. He falls beneath the hooves. The next wave of Parthian cavalry tramples him into the sand. In desperation, some Gauls dismount and crawl under the Parthian horses, stabbing upward into the unprotected bellies. It works for exactly 3 kills before the Parthians adjust their spacing. The heat is unbearable. The armor is unbearable. The dust is suffocating. Men are dying from exhaustion as much as from arrows. Publius orders a retreat to a small sandy hill. The elevation should help. It doesn't. The slope allows the Parthian archers to shoot over the front ranks and hit the men in the rear. Arrows rain down from above. There's nowhere to hide. Titus, 19, an infantryman from the 8th Legion, takes an arrow through the lung. The wound isn't immediately fatal, but he can't breathe properly. He drowns in his own blood over the course of 3 minutes, choking and gasping while his brothers hold the line around him. His body stays upright for another 30 seconds after he dies, propped up by the men pressed tight on both sides. Publius knows how this ends. They're surrounded, running out of water, and the Parthians have infinite arrows. Surrender isn't an option. The Parthians will parade him through the streets as a trophy, torture him for propaganda value. He gives his final order to his shield-bearer. "Kill me now." The shield-bearer hesitates. Publius screams it again. The blade goes in under the ribs, angled upward. Publius Crassus, 30 years old, son of the richest man in Rome, dies in the sand with his eyes open. The other Roman officers follow his example, mass suicide rather than capture. Of the 6,000 men who charged with Publius, only 500 are taken prisoner. The rest are corpses. The Parthians cut off Publius's head. They mount it on a spear and ride back toward the main Roman square, which has been enjoying a brief lull in the arrow storm. The Parthians gallop close to the Roman lines, close enough for every legionary to see the head clearly. They shout in broken Latin, mocking the father. "Whose son is this? He cannot be the son of Crassus, for Crassus is a coward." Marcus Crassus sees his son's head. His face goes blank. He doesn't cry. He doesn't rage. He just stands there, staring, while the battle continues around him. The men closest to him will later say this was the moment Rome lost, not when the arrows started, but when their commander's mind broke. To understand why 40,000 professional Roman soldiers walk into a trap and get slaughtered, you need to understand the man leading them. Marcus Licinius Crassus is 60 years old, which in the ancient world makes him elderly. He's the wealthiest man in Rome, so rich that historians still argue about the exact amount, but estimates put his fortune at roughly 200 million sesterces, or about $2 billion in modern money. He made his wealth through real estate speculation, buying up burning buildings for cheap and then using his private fire brigade to put them out. But money can't buy military glory, and in Rome, military glory is the only currency that matters. By year 53 before Christ, Rome is dominated by the First Triumvirate, 3 men sharing power. Julius Caesar is conquering Gaul, winning legendary battles, building a reputation as the greatest general since Alexander. Pompey the Great has already subjugated the eastern Mediterranean, crushed the pirates, and earned his title. And Crassus? His only military victory was putting down the slave revolt led by Spartacus, and Rome's aristocracy dismisses that as a police action, not a real war. So when Crassus is appointed governor of Syria, he sees an opportunity. East of Syria lies the Parthian Empire, wealthy, exotic, and unconquered by Rome. The cities along the Euphrates River are full of gold and silk. More importantly, conquering them would give Crassus the triumph he desperately needs, the military achievement that would finally put him on equal footing with his partners in the Triumvirate. There's just one problem. The Parthians haven't attacked Rome. This is an unprovoked war of aggression, illegal by Roman law and morally indefensible. Crassus doesn't care. He announces his departure for Syria and the Parthian campaign. Tribune Attius Capito tries to stop him. When that fails, Capito stands at the gates of Rome and performs ancient, forbidden rituals, curses so old and terrible that most Romans have never heard them spoken aloud. He calls down strange and dreadful gods upon Crassus, cursing him to die far from home in disgrace and horror. The crowd watches in silence. Crassus rides out anyway. When Crassus arrives in Syria, he receives a message from the king of Armenia, Artavasdes II. The Armenian king offers a strategic alliance. 6,000 cavalry and 30,000 infantry will join the Roman army if Crassus agrees to invade Parthia through the Armenian highlands. The logic is sound. The mountainous terrain would nullify the Parthian cavalry's advantage. Horse archers need open plains to maneuver. In the mountains, Roman heavy infantry would dominate. Crassus refuses. The mountain route would take too long. He wants to march directly across the Mesopotamian flatlands, seizing the wealthy cities along the Euphrates River as he goes. Speed, he believes, is more important than caution. Greed wins over strategy. His guide for the desert crossing is an Arab chieftain named Ariamnes. Ariamnes had previously worked for Pompey the Great, so Crassus trusts him. This is a fatal mistake. Ariamnes is secretly being paid by the Parthians. He's a double agent, and his job is to lead the Roman army into a trap. Ariamnes tells Crassus exactly what he wants to hear. The Parthians are terrified. They're fleeing with their treasures, and if the Romans march quickly, they can catch them before they escape. He urges speed, 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 and critically, He leads the army away from the Euphrates River, away from water, and into the deep desert. The march takes place in June, the height of Mesopotamian summer. The legionaries are carrying roughly 40 kilograms of equipment each: chainmail armor, a large rectangular shield called a scutum, 2 javelins, a short sword, a dagger, rations, and digging tools for making camp. In this heat, wearing this weight, the men are already suffering before the enemy even appears. Thirst becomes a problem almost immediately. Ariamnes has led them away from reliable water sources. Dehydration weakens the soldiers. Some begin to hallucinate. And the dust, the endless, choking dust kicked up by 40,000 marching men turns the air brown. Visibility drops. The Romans are marching blind into a landscape chosen specifically by their enemy. This is the moment to understand. Crassus has already lost the battle before it begins. He's rejected the mountain route. He's trusted a traitor. He's marched his men into exhaustion and dehydration. He's chosen ground that favors cavalry over infantry. Every decision, driven by impatience and greed, has been wrong. The curse is already working. The Parthian commander is Surena. He's 30 years old, and even Plutarch, who hates barbarians, admits he's the tallest and most beautiful man of his time. But beauty is the wrong word. This is a warrior prince who travels with 1,000 camels for baggage and 200 wagons for concubines. When he camps, his pavilion rivals Roman temples in size. Surena is the man who put King Orodes II on the Parthian throne during the Civil War. The king owes him everything, which makes Surena powerful enough to be dangerous, a fact that will matter after this battle ends. His genius is psychological warfare. Before a single arrow flies, Surena has already won half the battle by making the enemy afraid. He's brought war drums, called Roptron hide, stretched over bronze bells that produce a sound Plutarch describes as a mixture of wild beasts' roar and harsh thunder. Not music, horror, a frequency that triggers the prey instinct in human brains. And he's planned a visual trick that will turn Roman confidence into panic in 3 seconds. On the Roman side stands Marcus Licinius Crassus, 60 years old, richest man in Rome, desperately jealous of Caesar and Pompey's military glory. His only previous victory was crushing Spartacus's slave revolt, which Rome dismisses as police work. He's marching under a curse, willing to ignore every warning, willing to abandon 4,000 wounded men in darkness to save his own escape. Desperate old men are the most dangerous. They have nothing left to lose. The Parthian composite bow is constructed from wood, horn, and sinew, storing tremendous energy in a compact package. The arrows punch through Roman shields and pin soldiers' hands to the wood. Some are fitted with whistling bulbs that create a shrieking din when 9,000 archers fire simultaneously. Roman equipment assumes you'll close distance and fight hand-to-hand, but the Parthians refuse to close. They circle at 100 meters, shooting from horseback, galloping away every time Romans charge. The Romans form a hollow square. 40,000 men, immobile, a static target. The Parthians have brought 1,000 camels loaded with spare arrows. The Romans wait for ammunition to run out, but the archers ride back, resupply, return. Fresh arrows, always fresh arrows. When the Romans realize the barrage will never end, that's when hope dies. Not during fighting, during understanding. You're going to stand here getting shot until you're all dead, and there's nothing you can do. The Parthians also perfect the Parthian shot, twisting 180 degrees at full gallop to shoot backward while retreating. Without stirrups, you can't catch them, you can't pin them down. You just die tired. The Roman square trudges across desert near the Belissus River. 40,000 men in perfect formation. Scouts report enemy ahead. Crassus tightens the formation. Then they see the Parthians. 10,000 riders covered in robes, looking like refugees. The Romans relax. 4-1 advantage. This is going to be easy. The drums begin. Not a beat. A vibration you feel in your chest. The Rhoptrons sound bronze bells and hide, producing something that doesn't belong in nature. A wild beast's roar mixed with harsh thunder. The ground seems to shake. Some men feel it in their bowels. The drums stop. 3 seconds of silence. Then Shurena signals. The Parthians cast off their robes. Underneath, scale armor. Thousands of overlapping metal plates catching the sun. 10,000 riders reveal polished steel simultaneously. The effect is like staring into wildfire, a wall of blazing light stretching across the horizon. Some Romans fall to their knees, blinded. The transformation from nomads to iron warriors takes 3 seconds. Confidence becomes terror in the same span. The 9,000 horse archers spread out, circling the square at 100 meters. The Romans raise shields, forming testudo. The arrows begin, not volleys, a storm. Thousands of shafts arcing through air, blotting out sections of sky. The whistling shriek from bulb-tipped arrows turns the air into terror. Marcus Aurelius, 28, 3rd Legion, feels his shield shudder, looks down, arrow shaft protruding, tip 2 inches from his hand. He tries to adjust grip, can't. The arrow has pinned his hand to the shield through wood, through strapping, into his palm, arrowhead scraping bone. Pain explodes when he tries to pull free. He's trapped, shield locked to hand. Second arrow punches through at different angle, finds the gap above collarbone, enters throat. He tries to scream. Blood fills windpipe. He drops, still holding shield, still pinned. Men step over him. Romans try charging. Small units break from square. Parthians turn horses and gallop away, shooting backward. Romans in full armor, running across sand in summer heat. No contest. They stumble back, exhausted, demoralized. A cataphract charges. Gaius, 35, centurion with 15 years experience, meets him. The Contos lands 4 meters of steel, hits chest with full horse momentum, lifts Gaius off his feet. He's airborne, impaled, carried forward. The rider releases. Gaius falls backward, lance sticking from chest like flagpole, dies staring at sky, pinned to earth. Then the Parthian archers ride to rear. Romans think finally running out of arrows, but they're resupplying. The camel train, 1,000 camels loaded with bundled arrows. Archers dismount, grab fresh quivers, return. 2 minutes. Fresh arrows, always fresh arrows. The realization spreads like poison. This will never end. That's when Crassus orders Publius to charge. We know how it ends. 6,000 men, the trap, Gauls fighting with bare hands, sandy hill, mass suicide, 5,500 corpses. When Parthians return, they're carrying Publius's head on a spear. They ride close enough every soldier sees the face. Eyes still open, mouth frozen. They shout in broken Latin. Whose son is this? Cannot be son of Crassus, for Crassus is coward. Crassus's face goes slack. Expression drains. He stands surrounded by 30,000 living soldiers, already a ghost. From this moment, he stops giving coherent orders, wanders ranks in daze, mumbling his son's name. They nail the head to a spear, planted 50 meters from square. It watches Romans die. Marcus Sextus, 41, served with Publius in Gaul, sees the head and vomits inside helmet. The smell his own sick, mixed with blood and dust, too much. He tears off helmet, gasping. Arrow enters through open mouth, punches through throat, severs spine, dies instantly. Helmet in hand, vomit on chin. Discipline begins fracturing. Not route training too strong, but crumbling. Units lose cohesion. The testudo wavers. Parthians press harder. Arrow storm intensifies. Then sun begins to set. Night falls. Brief pause. Parthians withdraw to camp. Dawn breaks. The storm resumes. Arrows incoming. Thousands whistling through air. Shields hit hard, punching straight through layered wood. Lucius, 33, takes one through the eye, down instantly. A cataphract charge. 3 riders, lances, leveled. The impact is thunder. The whistling continues, sky darkening with shafts. Quintus, 41, veteran, takes one through thigh, stays standing. Second arrow, knee. He drops. Third, finishes him. The dust is choking now. Kicked up by thousands of hooves, it hangs in air like fog. Men can't see 10 meters, can't see the enemy, can only hear the whistle of incoming arrows and hope they miss. Maximus, 36, centurion, tries rallying his men. Hold the arrow through throat mid-sentence. Voice cuts. Down. Flavius, 22, first campaign, panics. The dust, the heat, the endless arrows, his mind breaks. He drops his shield and runs, makes it 10 steps before Parthian shot catches him in the back, face first, in sand. Varro, 31, loses footing, falls hard. Arrow hits him while he's down. Through the back. He tries getting up. Can't. The next rank moving forward tramples him. Caius, 38, swings his gladius at a passing cataphract. Blade bounces off scale armor. Useless. The return lance swing takes his head. His body stands for 2 seconds. Blood fountaining. Then falls. The square is shrinking. Men dying faster than gaps close. The formation compressing inward like a vice. 8 cataphracts charge. Full momentum. Impact scatters Romans. 4 impaled on lances. 2 trampled under hooves. 1 crushed when a horse stumbles and falls on him. The sound of bones breaking is audible above the chaos. Octavius, 39, grabs a Parthian horse's bridle in desperation, tries pulling the rider down. The rider twists his lance, catches Octavius through both lungs. Blood sprays from his mouth. Down. The testudo is failing now. Shields breaking under repeated impacts, gaps opening. Officers screaming orders that no one can hear over the whistling and the screaming and the thunder of hooves. Cornelius, 25, arrow through stomach. He's screaming. It takes him 5 agonizing minutes to die while the battle continues around him. Men step over his thrashing body. Bodies stacking now. The pile growing. Blood pooling in depressions. The smell of death mixing with dust and sweat and fear. The math is brutal. Romans dying at a rate the formation can't sustain. Parthians firing from safe distance, untouched, resupplied, fresh. 4 hours of this. Non-stop. No pause. No mercy. No hope. When sun finally sets, 8,000 Romans are corpses in sand. Another 4,000 wounded, bleeding out inside the shrinking square, waiting for nightfall so they can be abandoned. Parthians withdraw to camp. They'll resume at dawn if anyone's left. Parthians camp nearby. The Romans have 6 hours of darkness. Marcus Crassus, barely functional, orders retreat to Carrhae town. But inside the formation, 4,000 wounded men. No wagons to move them, no time to carry them. Crassus gives the order. Leave them. As the column moves out, a sound rises. Murmuring becomes, shouting becomes screaming. 4,000 men begging not to be abandoned. Felix, 41, arrow in gut, knows he's dying. But dying alone in the dark is unbearable. He grabs a passing soldier's leg, holds on with both hands. Don't leave me. Please. I have children. Don't leave me. The soldier kicks free, keeps walking. Please, please don't leave me. My children, please. Multiply that by 4,000. The sound creates panic. Soldiers think Parthians are attacking. Units break formation. Men are trampled. The retreat becomes stampede. Decimus, 52, veteran of 20 campaigns, arrow through thigh, tries keeping up. Falls behind. 10 meters, 20, 50. He can see them disappearing into darkness. Tries calling out. Throat too dry. He crawls, hands sinking into sand. After 20 meters, he stops, lies on his side, waits for dawn. Dawn comes. Parthians find 4,000 wounded where the square had been. They kill them methodically, riding through with spears, finishing the wounded where they lay. Decimus hears screaming start. lasts 30 minutes, then silence. The Romans who reached Carrhae are trapped again. Crassus attempts escape to Armenian mountains, betrayed again, surrounded. Surenna offers parley, peace treaty, friendship with Rome. Crassus knows it's a trap, but his soldiers have had enough. They surround him, banging weapons, threatening mutiny if he doesn't go. They force their commander to walk into the trap. Crassus descends with small retinue. Parthians offer him a horse with golden bridle. As he mounts, they whip the horse. It tries to bolt. Octavius grabs bridle, swords drawn. In the scuffle, Pomaxithres stabs Crassus. Bodyguards cut down. Over in seconds, Parthians cut off his head. 500 kilometers away, King Orodes II watches Greek play the Bacchae at Armenian wedding. Actor Jason of Tralles playing Agave mother who tears her son apart in frenzy. During climax, Parthian messenger arrives carrying Crassus's head. Actor Jason takes it, holds up to audience, sings the lines, "We bring from the mountain a tendril freshly cut to the palace, a glorious prey." The audience erupts in applause. The symbolism is perfect Roman consul's head, as prop in Greek tragedy about divine punishment for hubris. King Orodes laughs, the court applauds. Marcus Licinius Crassus, richest man in Rome, ends as theatrical prop. 20,000 Roman corpses scattered across the desert near Carrhae. The wind shifts sand, slowly covering some, exposing others. Within a week, the battlefield becomes a mass grave marked by glints of rusted mail. 10,000 taken prisoner, marched east in chains toward the edge of the Parthian Empire. They'll guard frontiers against enemies they've never heard of. Rome forgets about them. They're dead as far as Roman law is concerned. 10,000 escape, stumbling back towards Syria with stories Rome won't want to hear. How arrows killed them from distances where Roman swords were useless. How their general's son died in sand. How their commander ended as a prop in a play. Parthian casualties, a few hundred at most. This wasn't a battle. This was an execution that took 2 days. For Rome, the consequences ripple outward. The First Triumvirate is dead. With Crassus gone, nothing balances the rivalry between Caesar and Pompey. Within 4 years, civil war. The Republic tears itself apart. Everything that follows dictatorship, assassination, empire traces back to this desert. For Parthia, this is the high water mark. They've proven themselves equal to Rome, but it's also the beginning of the end for Surenna. The 10,000 prisoners vanish into Parthian territory. Ancient sources mention their march to Margiana, modern Turkmenistan, to guard eastern frontiers against Hun raids. But in the 1,940 seconds, historian Homer Dubs proposed something remarkable. These Romans eventually fought as mercenaries for the Huns against the Chinese Han dynasty in year 36 before Christ. Chinese chronicles describe enemy forces using a fish-scale formation, possibly the Roman testudo, and building wooden palisades unknown to steppe peoples. The theory suggests survivors settled in Liqian village, Gansu province, China. Year 2005 DNA testing. 56% of villagers carry Caucasian genetic markers. Green eyes, fair hair. Mainstream historians remain skeptical. But the DNA is there. The fish-scale formation is recorded. The wooden palisades are documented. Whether they reached China or died in Parthian service, the truth is simple. 10,000 Romans marched east and vanished from Western history. They became guards on frontiers so distant Rome didn't have names for them. All of them died far from home, forgotten by the empire they served. The irony is perfect. Crassus marched east, seeking glory. His men marched farther east than any Roman army ever had, but as prisoners, not conquerors. Tribune Attius Capito cursed Crassus at Rome's gates, calling down strange and dreadful gods. Every element came true. Betrayal. Twice. Both guides leading Romans into traps instead of safety. Heat and thirst. The desert consumed strength before battle started. Death far from home. 20,000 corpses in Mesopotamian sand. Not one returned to Rome. Humiliation. Crassus's head as theatrical prop. His son's head on a spear. The wealthiest man in Rome reduced to a joke in a Greek tragedy about divine punishment for hubris. And Carrhae suffered his own curse. King Orodes II, jealous and fearful, executed him shortly after the battle. The loyal general who delivered Parthia's greatest victory was betrayed by the insecure king he'd helped crown. His reward for crushing Rome was death. The symmetry is poetic. The general who sought glory died humiliated. The general who won glory died betrayed. The desert still holds those bones. Occasionally, farmers near modern Harran uncover Roman coins, broken gladius blades, chainmail eaten by 2,000 years. The battle introduced Rome to Chinese silk. The Parthian banners, shining like fire, made Rome obsessed with the luxury fabric, driving Silk Road economies for centuries. The men who died at Carrhae opened the path to the east through defeat and desire. Crassus wanted military glory to match Caesar and Pompey. He got the most famous defeat in Roman history. He wanted to be remembered as a great general. He's remembered as the fool who marched 40,000 men into a desert trap. He wanted a triumph through Rome. He got his head displayed as entertainment in a foreign court. He wanted his son to inherit honor. His son died ordering his own execution, his severed head breaking Roman morale. Rome wanted to expand eastward. Instead, expansion stopped at the Euphrates for generations. The Parthians wanted to humble Rome. They succeeded, but their greatest general was executed for being too successful. Carrhae wanted to serve his king and win glory. He delivered the greatest victory in Parthian history and was killed for it within the year. And those 10,000 prisoners wanted to go home. Instead, they walked east until they potentially reached China, the only Romans to see the Middle Kingdom as captured men, not ambassadors. The Battle of Carrhae killed 20,000 Romans in 2 days. But the real casualties were counted in decades. The Republic collapsed, the Triumvirate dissolved, and Rome learned that legions aren't invincible. The sand remembers the sound of 9,000 bowstrings releasing simultaneously, the whistle of arrows blotting out the sun, the screams of men who understood too late they were cattle in a slaughterhouse with no escape. Marcus Licinius Crassus marched east seeking immortality. He found it, just not the kind he wanted.